Hi, I'm Ellen Bader, and welcome back to the Relationship School podcast.
And I'm Jayson Gaddis, hubby to Ellen Bader.
Yes, you are.
All right, we have another great question from one of you, Daniela. That's a good question about dealing with a partner who, like, when you share your feelings, they get upset, basically.
Yeah, you try to talk to them about how you feel about something in the relationship or something that they do or don't do, and then that partner gets defensive or pushes back or starts saying they have problems with you. Like it kind of doesn't go anywhere. Maybe it makes things worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I've had other folks ask this same question. I think it's really important. Ellie asked a version of this, and Kevin asked another version of this recently in class. So thanks, Daniela, for this question.
Yeah, it's like, how do I share my feelings without triggering and upsetting my partner?
Yeah.
Or what do I do if that happens?
Yeah, like why I should be allowed to share my feelings and not have them freak the fuck out.
I mean,
people think like I think where this question is coming from is a lot of people find themselves with a partner who does not only get triggered when you share your experience and what you see or what you're feeling, however you share it, and they get triggered. And then the expectation is somehow you shouldn't be sharing triggering things. Like, don't bring up stuff that triggers me. I don't know. Like, if I'm on the receiving end of that.
Of their reaction?
If I'm the reactor to you sharing your feelings, my story is, don't trigger me.
Stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
Yeah.
And that's impossible.
Impossible to not be...
Not trigger someone.
Right. We're going to get triggered.
We're going to get triggered.
We're going to get activated. We're going to have reactions.
Plan on it for the rest of your life by the person you care most about.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. There's a fantasy of your partner, Daniela, that's like you shouldn't bring up uncomfortable things, and that's just not fair in a relationship.
Or also, I mean, maybe the fantasy goes both ways. I'm kind of hearing you differently right now, which is you shouldn't get upset if I'm bringing you something, some complaint I have. You should handle that really skillfully and hold a lot of space for me and be really empathic towards me right away.
Yeah, so maybe Daniela is thinking, hey, I should be allowed to share this and you shouldn't get upset.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going both ways.
I agree.
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that it's understandable that both people feel probably entitled to their reaction and don't like how their partner's reacting or treating them or handling them.
Yeah.
And so to me, it gets back to, can you, as a couple, this is where I would go first, can you as a couple step back together and say, how do we want to handle this? When one of us is upset about something that one of us is doing or not doing or something in the relationship, how should we bring that to each other so we can deal with it together? What would be a good way for you? What would work for you? And starting there.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're reading my mind.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because if you try to deal with the minutia in the moment, it's probably not going to go very well because you're going to be navigating. You're just in the weeds, and I like to use you're in the weeds, and you've got to now zoom out, be a drone, and just fly up in the sky and look at the situation together and go, this is, I don't like how we're doing this thing called feelings or called sharing our experience. It seems like I'm wanting you to not react when I share. You're wanting me to not react when you react. It's just unrealistic. It's really like, wait a minute. So
we need a plan.
You got to have a plan, guys. And let Ellen and I maybe share that just contextually in a long-term partnership. That's just unrealistic and not fair to ask other people to not react and to not get upset when we share. No matter how skillfully we share it, we still might activate our partner.
Yeah.
And that needs to be allowed. There has to be room for reactivity, ooh, that was triggering. Ooh, I'm upset now. Ooh, I'm feeling defensive.
Right, but what you're doing right now is ownership of that.
Yeah.
Like you saying, I'm having a reaction. I'm feeling like I'm getting defensive. Like, that's really different than just like,
True.
why are you bringing that to me? Or you always criticize me. So you're already doing it better than what I think happens when we don't have, as a couple, a way to bring up difficult things that takes good care of both people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have a way. And maybe you need to start there.
Mm-hmm.
Just both raising your hands saying, we don't have a way.
Yeah.
Because this is you zooming out, saying, oh gosh, we don't have agreements. We don't have a methodology. We don't have an approach. We don't have a way to do feelings and difficult stuff in a way that works for both of us.
Yeah.
And that's a huge, admitting that is an amazing place to start.
It's a great place to start. Yeah.
Because that's taking responsibility as a couple, saying we don't know what we're doing here.
Right. And so if I were to keep going with that, Danielle, is that who asked the question? I think Daniela, you could start with, okay, I'm noticing that there's times when I want to bring my upset feelings to you about something. And it seems like the way I'm doing that, or what I'm bringing up, is having you feel really defensive. And I want to get better at how do I bring things to you in a way where you can receive it better. What would you need from me? Or maybe, Danielle, you could think about, what does my partner need to hear? Do they need some kind of, hey, you didn't do anything wrong?
Oh, that's a good front-loading statement.
But I felt hurt by this, whatever thing that happened. This thing you did, that I don't think you were trying to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And I still had hurt feelings, and I want to talk to you about it. Like, sometimes people need a little front loading of something like, hey, I believe in you. You're a good person. I know you want the best for me. And this kind of sucked. This thing that happened, or this thing you did, or how you said that. That, again, now we're getting into just sort of how do we bring things to each other in a way where, can I bring a complaint to you, Jayson, that also shows that I know and believe that you're not trying to be an asshole.
Yeah, and when I hear that, I hear that you care about me. Right? She's making a statement that says, I care about you, and I have a complaint I'd like to air over here. When you front load, like Ellen's saying, with I care, and some kind of caring comment that acknowledges them. Hey, I know this might be hard to hear given your history. Hey, I know you've been really busy and you're really stressed, and I still need to bring up my complaints or my uncomfortable feelings.
Right. I know you're probably doing your best right now. Like, anything that just acknowledges them. This would be good to, talk about with your partner. Would this help? Would it feel better if I made sure I did this? Or
totally.
How can we talk about hard things without it making things worse? Couples have to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's such a good conversation to have as a couple, and then you could start to set up agreements around. Remember, we agreed that first of all, it's okay to bring up complaints and difficult things here in our relationship. Like, that has to be allowed, folks.
Right.
And not cool to say, you're never allowed to give me feedback or complain about me or have difficult feelings. That is just so unfair and ridiculous, right?
Yeah, no.
Good relationships, that's not a part of good relationships. Hey folks, as you know, I am doing regular masterclasses right now. This next one is on dealing with an emotionally unavailable partner or someone who's distant. So come check it out, relationshipschool.com/masterclass. And I hope to see you there. So a great relationship is, we talk about very difficult things sometimes. And I'm allowed to give you feedback. I'm allowed to air my complaints and even judgments sometimes.
Yeah.
But we want to do it in this container of that's welcome and it's okay because it's trying to help us move forward as a couple.
Yeah, because we're looking out for each other, and I can bring up hard things without putting stress on our relationship.
Yeah.
And putting undue stress on you, I think. And there's something about, the person who, let's say in this situation, Jayson, you're the person who's getting defensive about feedback. Like, if you start to make agreements around this, you could start to say, okay, if you bring something to me, my job is to, like were doing earlier, like try to acknowledge what's happened. Like, if I get defensive, I'm going to try to just
breathe through it.
Name it, maybe.
Sorry for me.
We're going to go slow enough so that Jayson can work with himself and his feelings. And that's not easy to do. Some people are better at that than others. We can all grow probably in that. And still listen to me, you know, and I'm going to go slow enough and be like, oh, you know, we're just going to stay with each other.
Yeah.
So that we can help each other manage this stressful moment.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you agree to things like, hey, we don't try to navigate a big, hard thing when we're also making dinner and trying to feed the kids. Like we wait till we might say, I have some, you know, can we talk about this tonight? Can we, you know, you might have parameters around, like, don't come into the middle of my work day. That wouldn't work. You know, you actually would be fine with whatever probably there, but some people wouldn't. And so you have to, there's lots to talk about like, you know, when do we do that? How do we do that? Mm-hmm. What do we need to keep in mind? What do I need to keep in mind about you, my partner, so that I can keep you online and with me so that you can hear me and give me some space for this and we can get somewhere better.
Totally.
Because obviously that's the point of bringing up a hard thing, is to get something resolved or worked through and get to a better place.
Yeah. One other pro tip here is when you bring up complaints or difficult things, you want to talk about the person's behavior, not who they are. Mm. Right. It's a subtlety, but I mentioned this in my book, Getting to Zero, and just talking about, hey, I have this complaint about your behavior, Ellen, this thing that you do. Mm-hmm. It's not a complaint about who you are as a woman or as a person, right? So couples sometimes get stuck there and they fuse the two together, and then the person feels really judged, and then it gets worse. True. So these are all little subtle things that you can do to make this better. But what we're really trying to convey here is it has to be okay to bring up difficult things and complaints and feelings in a relationship. And then it's the couple's job to learn how to do that well, in a way that's generative, in a way that takes the couple further forward, not backwards. Mm-hmm. And both people need to be learning how to take responsibility for their reactivity and talking about it. Yeah,
there's like a lot of capacities involved, actually.
It is.
And be gentle with yourselves around just where you're at, because a lot of us haven't developed these capacities in ourselves. We've gotten by with whatever we've gotten by with, and maybe now's the time to kind of up level being able to be with our upset, being able to communicate about how we feel while keeping someone else in mind, being able to come up with agreements that we follow through on around how we handle challenges in our relationship or when one of us is upset. So it's a lot of collaboration, and it's very worthwhile. But, you know, if this is the first time you're actually doing this all in a good way, it's going to take a minute.
It's going to take a minute. And let's check in on Daniela's question, because we actually never read her question.
Oh.
And just make sure that we've covered it.
Okay.
So, she asks, how do you deal with a partner who has an extremely sensitive ego and takes everything very personal, and instead of saying that he feels hurt, he attacks me, telling me I should not have said what I said in the first place, and he doesn't consider it necessary to say what I said. And I feel pushed back and diminished. I can't possibly know in advance what hurts his ego.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're approaching each other like we don't always know what state our partner's in. You know, like I feel like this happens. Like I say something to you, you're already full, and like I'm coming in at the wrong time, like, or I have a stressor that I'm already thinking about, and then Jayson says something, and I'm like, yeah, there it is again. Or, you know, there's we're like, it's a constant creative process.
Yes, but I will say, but if Ellen knows me really well. Yeah. And so your comment, Danielle, was surprising. Like you were saying, how could I possibly know in advance what hurts his ego? Well, you actually can know in advance what hurts his ego. Mm-hmm. Because you know him and you've been together with him for X amount of years. Ellen knows that I'm sensitive to criticism. I know that she's sensitive to criticism. That's not a mystery. And I know where that comes from. I know what makes that worse and what makes that better. Yeah. And sometimes we're with a partner who doesn't know themselves very well and they haven't done any self-reflection. And they just are like, I don't know, I'm just defensive, or just leave me alone. And that's very difficult to work with.
It is hard.
Because to have a great relationship and to move towards security in a relationship, you've got to self-reflect. Both people need to self-reflect. and have some self-understanding.
Yeah.
Because that allows the other person to then understand.
Right. Because if you don't know what you're triggering or activating, and if no one knows in the system, then it's
like a
way
landmine,
steeper.
and
It's like,
it's
where are
just-
the landmines?
God, yeah.
And we can know those. I can know where Jason's sensitive. I don't always, I can sort of miss a tune and think I said something fine and it didn't come out that way. Like
Sure.
we still make mistakes, but you can know what your partner is sensitive to, what they react to. And I think in this situation, it's, I'm guessing your partner's feeling criticized and is unable to handle that with you very well.
Yeah, and then he's got his criticism to deal with now, and then he's got your feelings to deal with. And for him, that feels overwhelming.
It's
but
just too much.
he's got to develop the capacity to be with your upset and be with his own upset, right, over time.
Yeah, and you, Danielle, like I was saying in the beginning, can develop the capacity to handle him in a way that has him feel like it's safe enough to, stay in that with you. Like you can help each other. It's not just one person's job to figure this out. Like when it comes to a couple, both of you are figuring out, how can we do this better for you? How can this go better for me? How do we help each other with our vulnerabilities so that we can move forward, so we can get things off the table, so we can move on with life.
Amen to that. Okay, let us know what you think. Danielle, hopefully this helped you and others, many others in our Relationship School community group. You can certainly join that group by going to relationshipschool.com/community. It's a great group of folks.
With great questions.
We have amazing questions rolling in. And probably the best place to ask us questions is in that group. Occasionally we'll answer a question on Instagram, but often it's in that Facebook group. Thanks, Sunny.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all. I hope you have ordered my new book by now, Getting to Zero, How to Work Through Conflict in Your High-Stakes Relationships. It's already getting dozens of 5-star reviews on Amazon. I've heard from a lot of you. Thank you for buying the book, buying it on Audible, buying it on Kindle. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. I think this book is going to help a lot of people. It's all about how do we get back to a good place after some kind of disconnection or rupture or conflict. That's what the entire book is about. And if you want a roadmap on how to get back to a good place, what I call zero, please order my book. gettingtozerobook.com. Get you some extra goodies, a conflict quiz, some additional PDFs, etc. And you can order it in all the places and support your local bookstores. Cool. Thanks. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships. And you are one of them. So thank you.